so much for being part of this new episode in College Recruiting Mindset. Exciting to have Coach Mark Klysner from Illinois State University, head coach on men's tennis. He's been there since 2013. Is that correct, Coach?
Yeah.
2013. You got on board with the university, Illinois State University, and prior to that, you were a head coach of Youngstown State University for 3 years. Assistant coach. This is how you started. I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna ask you, coach at Dickens University and Austin Pavey University. You were there for a good 2 years, being assistant coach, and graduated in South Carolina and Columbia. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And now we were talking prior to this, the story about you and your family and how everything started. I'm excited. You're an international athlete. I am as well. We're not from here, so you from Denmark. Of course, you grew up. You've been here in the United States for many years. But I want you to tell me, because I was very interested in the story of how everything started from you on tennis, because you represent the Canadian team. The Canadian team. As in juniors, you were in juniors, and you have a good story right there to share with us. So take me over how everything started, Coach.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. So born and raised in Denmark, played hockey, soccer, tennis, growing up. And I guess just got to that level with hockey and tennis, but mostly hockey. I had a Canadian hockey coach. And so he just told mom and dad, you know what, to progress his hockey, maybe think about moving to Canada. And so my parents were at a stage. I said, you know what, hey, let's just try it. And so we moved to Winnipeg, of all places that you can move to in Canada. If you've been to Canada, you think of Vancouver, you think of Montreal, Toronto. You don't go to Winnipeg unless you're just flying through Winnipeg or driving through, and you got to stop for gas. But mom and dad, they decided, we're going to stop in Winnipeg, and it's a hockey hotbed. So, so the hockey, I ended up, I kept on playing throughout the years, got drafted, Western Hockey League, tennis, ended up getting, played some tournaments, kind of got the name out there. Got invited to join. It was kind of like a tryout for the national team, where you spend like 6 months in your home city and 6 months in Toronto at the training center. And so, it didn't take too long after we arrived to Canada that I got onto the national team. And then from there, it was just kind of, all right, I got to pick and choose, started getting the pressure. All right, you got to pick one or the other. And I thought, okay, well, if I go with hockey, it seemed like if I was going to play college hockey, or if I was going to play like one of the leagues, I'm going to be still in the cold weather. Whereas the tennis was like, okay, now I'm like top 10, or I think it was like 3 or 4 in Canada, whatever it was. And I'm getting, recruited all over the country. And I was like, okay, I go on visits in some of these Southern schools. I went to visit like Louisville, I went to Kansas, San Diego State, Clemson, nice. South Carolina, had a few others. And it was going to South Carolina, where I was like, okay, I like this weather, I could get used to. Guys on the team were nice, they took me to, showed me a good time, I guess you could say, on my trip. And I was like, all right, this is the right place. So
did you when you did that, you did official visits or unofficial?
So I did official visits. Now the funny thing is that, and the guys on my current team, or over the last few years, obviously a different generation. So with recruiting, and I'm sure we'll get more into it, but recruiting is very different than what it was back when I was playing. You had VHS tapes, so now I'm really dating myself. But we had VHS tapes. You send it. And if you're playing in Canada or an international country, most coaches don't see you play.
Don't see you,
right? So you got to mail these videos. And occasionally, if you travel, we traveled to the U.S., and that's where I played Andy Roddick in one of the tournaments. But and a couple other big names.
You got an opportunity to beat him, right?
I did. I'm 1-0 against Andy, so I will never play him again. I'm taking that record to the grave. So
he was number one at the time. He was the number one junior, right?
He was number one junior in the world. I didn't realize really who he was.
Really?
It's actually a really funny story, but I took these visits, and it's kind of, you didn't know as much, I mean, unfortunately, we really didn't have you couldn't Google schools and all this kind. You just had to literally see what you saw on TV,
Yes.
or actually travel down. And so, yeah, I just had, I had a bunch of schools make offers, and it was kind of like, all right, whatever one I felt most comfortable with the coach, without really knowing what the school looked like or anything. So it was so different from what these guys are used to now. And all these kids looking for somewhere to go. Yeah, it was. And so I was a big college sports nut anyways. I wanted to go to the US to play college athletics, whether it was soccer, hockey, or tennis. And so I was very familiar with schools, and I followed them, and I would, I don't know, I guess through my travels too, as the junior, we came to the US quite a bit to play tournaments. Okay. So I just got real familiar, and it just ended up like, okay, like these are big name schools. And I'm like, yeah, let me go visit this one or this one or this one.
So you have you were very knowledgeable at the time, even though that you were junior, you knew already what's going on.
Yeah,
because I knew travel, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, I knew more back then with less resources, really, to be that knowledgeable than the kids nowadays. Where nowadays they can learn everything about a school, coach, team, you name it, by just sitting in front of their computer for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But they still, they don't know as much. They and back then you really had to do, your due diligence, because you couldn't just go visit anywhere. So you really found out and really took the time to to learn more about the places you're going to go and visit. Whereas now kids, they kind of, they have these resources, but I don't feel like they necessarily use them. Really,
I think that it's I see many families, on that position where they really sit down next to me or to my team, and they're lost. They don't know what to do and how to do it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, because it's like, okay, let's bring this information to the kids up there and the families, and to understand a little bit more how the process works. Because even though that I'm international as well, I'm very familiar with how nowadays recruiting works. But kids, I think the biggest, I see it as a no-no, if you want to call it like that, is social media. That's the main reason why people is not that knowledgeable, because most of the people will say, okay, no, I'm gonna post, my swim, my strap, my I don't think it works like that. It could be good, or it could be really bad, because you thinking that you could just tagging somebody or texting somebody, like immediately you're gonna get a response. I mean, that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we get the amount of emails and calls or texts or messages that we get every day.
Exactly.
From all over the world, and it's one of the things I always stress to my current guys every year. I'm like, and try to remind them. I'm big on keeping the guys humble and appreciative. More because I probably don't have the patience for the generation I feel like that's coming up that aren't as appreciative. I feel like they've gotten more handed to them than we did when we were younger. We had to work, I feel like, a little harder to get to where we were at. And I try to remind my guys all the time. I'm like, listen, and keep them humble and all that. And I tell them, you guys don't understand how many kids would love to be in your shoes, would love to play for us or anybody else that's Division I.
No question.
I get emails, calls. I show them sometimes, my email, and be like, this is just today. I'm like, these are all kids that want your spot. And what are you going to do to to deserve it, to earn it, to keep it? You got to do all the right things. And so, let's
talk something important. Everything is being important. Don't get me wrong. It's just, let's talk about recruiting. Now, by the time you're going to start recruiting now, you got to the university. If I'm a tennis guy, what's the first thing you will see on an athlete?
What's the first thing that I look for? Or
that you look for?
For me, I personable.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many ways I could go with this, so this might be a little crazy answer, but so that, one of the things I always look forward to is I want to hear from the kid.
Okay.
Right. I don't want an email or a text from a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because that scares me right away.
Okay.
If a parent is doing all the work,
yeah.
Okay. To me, if I'm a recruiting agent, I'm telling the parent, hey, you let your kid, be involved. Let your kid do the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when the parents, it's just like, okay, so if the parents are doing the emails, doing the, when they're like, oh, hey, I would love for you to look at my son or daughter, to me, it's like, well, what else are you doing for them? How are they going to be when they're on their own, when they come to college? Because now I've already got a bad feeling like I'm going to have to babysit them, or they're going to, they're not going to be able to do so well on their own. And it's just a huge red flag. Yeah, I have kids, so I don't need any more to babysit. It's like, it's such a huge red flag right from the beginning. So that's number one. Two, I want the kids, be personable, respond. Now I know coaches can be bad at, sometimes we don't respond right away. Mm-hmm. If it's a kid that and I guess we can touch on that too, but if it's a kid that we right away have this feeling like, this is a kid I want. Mm-hmm. Okay, we probably get back to them within minutes. Mm-hmm. Because that's just how this game is, right? You wait a few hours, you might have lost the kid already. But you want a kid that responds. You want them to, hopefully they've done a little bit of homework, mm-hmm. on your program. Mm-hmm. Like we went through before our facilities got upgraded. I'd get emails from kids and they're like, oh, I loved your facilities. I'm like, are you kidding? Have you seen them? Like the winters that we had in Illinois destroyed them. Like, what are you talking about? So you're just giving me a generic email.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, okay, you don't really know that much about me, but mm-hmm. every player wants the attention from a coach, mm-hmm. right? And they want the coach to get, the more attention you give them, okay, then they feel like, oh, maybe that's where I want to go. Well, it's the same thing, like if you want to come here, prove it to me.
Prove it. Yeah.
Why is it? Don't just tell me, oh, because we have this or we have that.
Take action. Take action.
Yeah, it's got to be an email, and mm-hmm. then how many times I've gotten where they put a different coach's name, and then shoot the email. It's like, okay, so like, and sometimes I have fun with it and email them back and whatever. But it's little things like that, just be very personable, be very professional. Throw in a couple random facts, even if you Googled it 5 minutes before you wrote me the email. Mm-hmm. You know what? You took the time to at least look something up about my school.
About your school, yeah.
Which gives me, okay, then let me take a look at this kid a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But really it's, I think the videos too, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. What we see on the videos.
Do you take a look at rank as well? Like how?
So, how... Yeah, so it's kind of a mixture, right? You're going to look at rankings, ratings, if you like the kid, mm-hmm. from a personality standpoint, grades, academics.
Is it this school, Illinois State, it's too tough when it comes to grades? I got information here, but I don't want to say, but
no. Academically, our school, fits like top 75 in the country, public universities. Mm-hmm. And so academically, it's pretty tough to get in, and they don't, unlike some schools will just say out there that you can get anybody in, if they're good at their sport. Our school's a little bit different. I can't just get anybody in, no matter how good they are. They got to have the grades.
You need to have the grades.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you guys take into consideration a lot the ACTs and ACTs, or is
we do? Yeah.
You come first. How?
So they'll look the SATs. My team, obviously, I've got a lot of internationals, so the TOEFL is huge.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna go over. We're gonna go over that.
Yeah, and our requirement's very high. So, it makes it tough for a lot of the kids to get in here. Mm-hmm. So I do lose a lot of guys to other schools based on that. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot I can obviously say or do about that, except for, I can appreciate, the integrity of our school and the academics are strong, and
Mhm.
and they're not going to bend over to let just anybody get in.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's kind of a culmination of what kind of kids we're looking for. But the academics, my team has won the highest GPA award.
Excellent.
I
Excellent.
think, let's see what I've done, 8 years, so 16 semesters. I think we've won it 13 or 14 of the
Oh
16
wow.
semesters.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So
Excellent.
these guys, as
They're
as
dedicated. They're
as non-street smart as they are, they're extremely smart in the classroom.
what would be the age recommendation for a kid to start though, like to start playing tennis?
I mean, I want to get kids out there like 5, 6 years old,
6 years.
but not like competing. Like,
Because
I just want them out there whacking the ball around, and I don't care where it goes.
mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, number one is put a racket in their hand and give them a ball and let them just swing away, and wherever they swing it. If they just like the feeling of swinging and hitting that ball, that's what we got to hook them on.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of pros are like sitting them down and like, okay, now I want you to do this and swing this way, and you lose the kid at that age.
You lose it, right? Yeah.
And they don't have that attention span to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I read there is a research that I read that two out of three kids by the age of 15, they're fed up with the sports because
Yeah.
it's so competitive right here in the States.
Yeah.
That like when this is some of the schools and they compete, they travel, they like professionals. It's like
Yeah.
they're still kids. I'm an athlete, okay, and we're talking right now to get in contact with you and how to get personal. What should I expect from you then if I'm an athlete, as coach, as university, as my future?
Yeah. What I tell the guys, anybody that's played for me, is one, I'm a player's coach. You're going to come here. One, I'm going to end up kind of being like your second dad, because I'm going to see you really be more than you're going to see your parents for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. So you're coming to a family. My wife is very involved as well. She's kind of like the team mom, takes pictures, videos, sends back, on the Facebook group to like all the moms, keeps them all, we're very in tune. We keep the families involved, because for most of them, like, whether they're international, they're out of state. Sometimes the out of state ones don't get to see their kid play either. And so we try to keep the parents involved as much as possible, let them, feel like they get a chance to see what's going on. And then, the players coach, I tell the guys, listen, my goals as a coach, one, I'm going to give you the best experience in the best 4 years of your life to this point. I want you to tell me in 4 years' time that you don't want to graduate, but having said that, I want you to be prepared. We want to put you in a place where you're not graduating. You're like, oh crap, now what do I do? No, we're going to go. I mean, unfortunately at our school, Illinois State's really good about setting guys up. And so when they graduate, I feel like all my guys pretty much kind of have a direction to go and where it takes. That's a huge thing to have, because a lot of schools, you're done paying that final bill. They're done with you.
See you later.
Yeah. And for us, it's like, no, you know what? A successful student athlete here is going to give back as well. We're in a generation where it's like everything's about winning, right? And it's like, and believe me, I want to win and all that. But what I tell the guys is, if you think about it, one team out of our conference will go to the NCAAs. Most years they lose first round. None of us are going to win a national championship. And even if you play at a Power 5, majority are not going to win a Big Ten title, an SEC title, are not going to go to NCAAs, are not going to win a national championship. So then what is the next thing that you really should, look at that, oh my God, that major experience, incredible. It's the 4 years you were there, and I want my guys to be able to walk out of here and be like, okay, we either did or we didn't, win a conference title, but holy crap, do I have memories. I have teammates I'll probably talk to the rest of my life. I have a coach that I'll, how many weddings I've been invited to over the years, and gone to. And it's like, that to me is worth more than winning championships.
Yeah.
Because the championship, what are you going to look back at? One day that you got to raise a trophy and all that. And again, don't get me wrong, I want to do that, and I want to do that often. But there's something when a player calls me up that played for me a few years ago and is, oh, coach, do you remember that time we went there, or we went there, or went?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's more of a reward or more of a title. Yeah. And so I just want to give any guy that plays for me the experience that I had when I played. I want them to have the same thing, and give them a chance to win conference title. Give them a chance. If they want to play at the next level and play on the tour, or try, to play as long as they can. Yeah. Then we'll get you prepped for that as well. Well, and I think you're doing a great thing by doing this. I think it's fun for us coaches to also kind of get to do something outside of the norm of just the day and day of being a coach. Yes. You guys are undervalued in many ways, and what you guys do for, these kids and the parents. Again, we didn't have the agencies when I was coming up and playing, and my parents would have probably paid whatever if it meant they didn't have to go through all the work that you guys do. And so it's I know you guys make our job easy too. And we're glad you guys do what you do.
I appreciate that, man, because it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Working with the teenagers and working with families, it's a lot to put in. What we do. I'm like you. I like to have a good relationship with the persons that I work with all the time. Yep. I like to have a good, communication with them. Try to not just, hey, pay me and see ya.
Right.
Sports recruiting is not like that. Sports recruiting will help you, or help the athletes as much as we can. We guide them to the SATs, to the ACT, to the eligibility center, to the highlight videos. This is not going to fly.
Right.
Trust me, you need to complete 90% of my profile in order for me to send it to the coaches. I need to make sure that you following the regulations, the rules, everything.
Right.
Your transcripts, everything. I mean, everything have to be. As soon as you see one of my profiles, you're going to be able to see everything right there that is needed. That's what I do with my internationals. Like I said, I got that international kit, with 2 cents, two emails that I sent. She got, $138,000 financially help, I mean, that's huge. That's money, that's something that is, people appreciate that, you're going to pay us a little bit, but man, oh man, it is worth it. I think, it's an extra, help that is needed.
Well, and the fact that if you take the time to really make sure that they go to the right place, and the kid comes back and says, no, you know what? Like, because obviously word of mouth is huge. I think word of mouth in the college game is a huge thing, right? Because it's too small of a business that you can get a bad name really quickly. And the same thing with coaches. Players find out real quick which coaches kind of have a bad reputation, or and all the coaches we all know too, as to like how everybody runs their programs and where they would, and it's not like there's times where kids say, I'm looking at going somewhere, and it's like, okay, you don't want to say anything because it's not professional to say something. So I'll never say something bad about another school, but you're allowed to think it in your head that, oh no, like that's not a good fit for you. But you can't tell them that, and you hope that's where the agencies can come in and be a little more that, what? No, like you shouldn't go there. You shouldn't go because this is what we're hearing. These are the, and I think you get the parents, you get the kids in the right direction where they're happy where they've gone and it's a good fit. It's amazing, what it'll do and more and more kids and for us coaches. So.
Yeah.